Incredible discovery, buried woman surprises billionaire with 3 miracle triplets. Sarah wiped down the counter, the faint smell of burnt coffee lingering in her nostrils. The diner was quiet on that stormy night, a stark contrast to the chaos that brewed inside her. Her heart raced at the thought of what lay ahead. To countless patrons who came for their late-night burgers, she was just a waitress. To herself, she was fighting a war for survival. The bills stacked high on the corner of the counter displayed the urgency of her situation, each unpaid bill a reminder of her struggle to provide for her young daughter, Lily. As the rain lashed against the window, desperation clawed at her stomach. She felt trapped in a life she didn't choose, yearning for a better existence, yet the weight of the world firmly pressed down on her shoulders. Visions of college dreams and a brighter future felt miles away, lost like the evening sun behind the storm clouds. How would she ever make it out? The clink of silverware pulled her from her reverie, but the unease refused to let go. She wrestled with thoughts of what would happen if things didn't change, if she couldn't offer her daughter a better life. Before she could spiral further, a loud crash echoed outside. Heart pounding, she glanced out the window, noticing the flickering streetlight struggling against the relentless downpour. The old shed behind her landlord's property had collapsed, an opportunity for distraction. Maybe it held something worth exploring, a miracle at the end of a dark tunnel. She hesitated, combating her fears as childhood tales of buried secrets began to whisper in her mind. Could it be a chance to change her fate? The rain intensified, echoing against the backdrop of her pounding heart. With every step towards the shed, dread and curiosity intertwined, and she felt the shadows tugging at her. Inside, she stumbled upon the underground bunker, hidden and neglected. The entrance creaked open, revealing a labyrinth of forgotten history. It was dark, but she forged ahead, her breath coming in quick bursts. The air was stale, thick with secrets trapped in time. What if she found nothing? What if she found everything? As she navigated the shadowy pathways, a glint caught her eye, artifacts from another life scattered across the cold concrete floor. Old photographs, documents, and mysterious items lay in disarray, each a link to a family history she never knew existed. There were secrets here, stories begging to be uncovered. Among them, a faded letter suggested connections to a lineage that might change everything for her and Lily. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Sarah pieced together clues of her heritage, a swirling mix of euphoria and terror engulfed her. Could this be her ticket out? Yet, with each revelation came a wave of doubt. Could she even handle what lay ahead? Exhaustion seeped into her bones as waves of anguish flooded her mind. The prospect of bringing triplets into the world knocked the air from her lungs. Joy was tainted by fear that she'd let them down just as she felt she had failed herself. The bunker echoed with the silence of her mounting anguish, fractured thoughts battling for space. The triplets, her miracles, offered hope, yet the burden of their legacy toyed with her heart. She was holding on to possibilities that felt far too heavy to carry alone. As the storm raged on, uncertainty enveloped her like a shroud. There was more here than just family ties. Dark secrets loomed large, threatening to engulf her newfound hope. Outside, the world continued its relentless pace, and so too did the questions swirl around her. Could she face what was hidden in this bunker? And what would it reveal, not just about her, but about those intertwined with her fate? Her breath quickened, tension escalating as she stood on the precipice of discovery. The path of her life twisted unrecognizably. The remnants of time hung in the air, thick and suffocating, as Sarah highlighted a faded photograph from the scattered artifacts, her fingers trembling. An enigmatic couple smiled in the picture, yet their expressions whispered of complexities that transcended that still moment. Who were they? What did they have to do with her? These questions ricocheted through her mind. She tucked the photograph into her pocket, a small yet potent reminder of a thread left untangled. The disarray of the bunker now felt less intimidating, as an ember of resolve ignited within her. Perhaps these forgotten remnants of a legacy could be the foundation upon which she could rebuild her life. Every document she uncovered could offer a glimpse into not just her past, but potential paths forward, ways to rewrite her future for Lily. Anxiety mingled with determination, each breath fueling a fire she barely understood yet fiercely needed, pushing deeper into the bunker, layer by layer of dust and history unveiled itself. What had become mundane in her life, a mere job waiting tables, was replaced with a burgeoning sensation of purpose. She was no longer just the keeper of plates, she was uncovering truths that had been buried long before her time, and with each step deeper into the shadows, she felt more alive. Among the jumbled artifacts, a dusty, bound ledger caught her eye. Thumbed through by unknown hands, it felt heavy with importance. Its pages were filled with names, dates, and faint inscriptions that spoke of family ties, of legacies forged by decisions made long before she was born. One entry illuminated her more recent struggles, a recorded transaction linked to a significant sum of money intended for future generations. Was this what she needed? Money? No, it was more than that. It was a legacy she could tap into, a sense of belonging. As hope nudged away her lingering dread, Sarah realized that finding these connections gave her strength. It wasn't merely financial gain she sought, but a chance to belong, to create a family narrative that spoke of resilience rather than scarcity. The tension in her chest began to dissipate as ideas swirled like a storm brewing inside her. She contemplated the sacrifices her ancestors had made, and how their choices could guide her own. With that came a revelation: it wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about legacy, about lifting herself and Lily from the dark shadow cast by poverty and closure. Yet, as her mind raced with possibilities, a sharp pang of fear struck her heart. What if this new legacy was tainted? What if it wasn't just the good she hoped to find that was buried alongside the promises? Each revelation could come with dark secrets that could unravel the life she was clawing to secure. She could not afford to repeat the mistakes of the past, nor could she let them evoke her old habits of despair. Now, facing the dim, relentless unknown that surrounded her, Sarah stood at the crossroads of fear and courage. To have a chance at uncovering her family's past and using it to create her own future, she needed to confront the frailty of hope, the push and pull of risk versus reward. Suddenly, a soft sound echoed from the depths of the bunker, a creak, a whisper of movement. Heart racing, fear tried to claw its way back in, but this time, she welcomed its presence. She was prepared to face whatever shadows emerged. As she took a step forward, determination surged within her. But the question loomed stark: what lay ahead was not merely discovery but confrontation. The path she chose could illuminate dark truths, both beautiful and painful. She swallowed hard, stepping into the darkness. The moment of truth was at hand, but would she be able to embrace the legacy that awaited her? The echo of the creaking sound hung in the air, amplifying the vulnerability of the moment. Sarah paused, a suffocating tension coiling around her chest. The source of the sound remained elusive, lurking in the shadows of the bunker, yet it catalyzed her resolve. She had ventured into this forgotten place seeking answers, and as fear gripped her, it also spurred her desire to uncover the truth. With cautious determination, Sarah stepped further into the darkened recesses. Her fingers brushed against the cool, rough stone walls, her heart drumming in sync with her rising courage. She recalled her ancestors' struggles, how they would have fought against their own fears, laid bare to confront the unknown. The thought empowered her, anchoring her as she navigated the treacherous emotional terrain between fear and discovery. In that moment of introspection, she grasped that the photograph she discovered was more than just an image, it was a beacon of potential. Who were those people? What legacy did they leave behind? Each artifact she encountered could be a piece of her own evolving narrative, but it also posed the risk of discovering things she wasn't prepared to confront. And yet, she pressed on, a mix of trepidation and exhilaration fueling her resolve. As she stepped cautiously into a larger chamber, the air felt different, thicker, charged with the weight of unspoken secrets. Suddenly, her gaze fell upon a weathered trunk at the far end of the room. Its surface was painted with intricate designs, the craftsmanship hinting at a time long past. A rush of intuition washed over her. This trunk could hold the answers she sought, or perhaps new dilemmas she hadn't anticipated. Taking a deep breath, Sarah walked toward it, feeling the ground shift beneath her both literally and metaphorically, as if the ground itself conspired to test her resolve. Each hesitant footfall echoed her internal conflict, a tug-of-war between her deep-seated fear of what she might uncover and her unwavering desire to assert control over her destiny. As she knelt beside the trunk, her fingers brushed against the latch. It was rusted, indicating years of disuse, yet it bore a sense of invitation. Would it yield treasures or burdens? She hesitated for a moment, grappling with a wave of self-doubt. Buried within was a new chapter of her family's history, which could either inspire her or lead to the unraveling of the thread she had begun to weave into her own story. In a swift motion, she lifted the latch and cracked the trunk open. Inside, she found a collection of letters, neatly stacked but worn with age. Each envelope bore a name, some familiar, some foreign. Intrigued, yet wary, she reached for the topmost letter, its yellowed paper crinkling under the light touch of her fingers. What revelations lay within? As she unfolded the letter, a sudden noise from deeper within the bunker cut through the silence, a stark reminder that she was not alone in this exploration. Sarah's heart pounded, a visceral reminder of her primal instincts kicking into gear. Was it merely a shift in the settling dust of the bunker, or was something else at play, lurking in the darkness? Just as she was about to dive into the contents of the letter, her phone vibrated in her pocket, a jarring interruption. The fear that had momentarily subsided roared back to life. She glanced at the screen, hesitating. The name flashing back at her was unexpected, laced with the gravity of potential confrontation. What had she unearthed that might catch the attention of those outside this sanctuary? Sarah's decision loomed large. Should she delve deeper into her family's past and confront the unspoken truths, or face whatever awaited her on the other side of that call? The legacy of her ancestors called out to her, but so did the impending choice that could alter the course of her life entirely. The moment of truth was not just about legacy, it was about the courage to reclaim her identity amidst the complexities of both the past and present. Would she step further into the shadows or reclaim her light? The sudden vibration of her phone reverberated through the silence, a relentless reminder that while her family's history beckoned, the present demanded her attention. Sarah's fingers hovered over the screen, reluctance pooling in her gut. The names on the paper still flickered in her mind, tantalizing promises of revelations waiting to unfurl. But she fought against the temptation to disregard the outside world, for it was within that turbulence lay her personal evolution. With a resolve brushing aside her fears, she swiped to answer. Hello. Her voice held a tremor that belied her attempt at calmness. Sarah. It's James, the voice responded, an unsettling mix of urgency and familiarity. James was her old mentor, a figure who had once instilled courage and wisdom into her career as an archivist. Now, that same voice held a gravity that threatened to pull her away from her sacred exploration. Is everything all right? She asked, striving for steadiness while the trunk's contents loomed behind her, thrumming with secrets waiting to be unraveled. Not exactly. I found out about your deep dive into your family's history. It might complicate things, he said, and Sarah could hear the churn of concern in his tone. The cadences of her past swept over her like a slow tide. Questions of trust and truth began to swirl within her. What had James discovered? Complicate? In what way? Let us just say, there are details in those letters you might not be ready for. Some elements could change the way you see your family's legacy, and your place in it. As those words sunk in, a fresh wave of determination flooded her. What was fear, after all, but the anticipation of the unknown? If her family had hidden truths, it was only right to unearth them. Her past was a foundational block upon which she needed to build her future. I understand your concern, but I have to confront this. It's important. Her voice steadied, becoming the anchor she needed. James paused, a beat filled with tension settling between them. Just promise me you'll proceed with caution. The truth can be a heavy burden. I will, she promised, conviction replacing her initial trepidation. Ending the call, Sarah returned her focus to the trunk before her. The letters beckoned, filled with a history entwined in her very identity. What was buried within those words? Burdens perhaps, but also opportunities for transformation. Sequentially, she sifted through the letters, drawn to the one addressed to her great-grandfather. As she carefully unfolded the fragile document, her heart raced with each crinkle of the yellowed paper. The handwriting was ornate, and as she began to read, fragments of family tales spilled forth hints of valor, resilience, and buried despair. But then, a name caught her eye, one that caused her blood to run cold. It was a name she recognized from her childhood, whispered in familial arguments, a figure draped in shadows. The letter detailed a conflict that involved betrayal, unveiling dark choices made long before she ever breathed life into the world. Sarah's breath hitched, the discovery felt monumental yet haunting. This was the key to her inheritance of fear, but also, the gateway to her liberation. If she could confront this history head-on, she could reclaim the narrative so many before her had silenced. With the letter trembling in her hands, she heard that noise again, a scrape against the stone floor echoing from the shadows beyond. She turned sharply, pulse racing anew at the sudden emergence of the unknown. Underneath the weight of her family's legacy and the haunting presence of the past, a grave realization dawned. Tonight was not merely an exploration, it was a confrontation with forces unearthed that could challenge her understanding of everything she believed true about herself. The cold air prickled her skin as she stood, heart pounding with determination. She was decisive yet unnerved, cradling her newfound knowledge like a fragile treasure. As the darkness shifted around her, Sarah understood that she stood at a fork in her journey. Would she use this newfound knowledge to bolster her history, or would something even deeper emerge, forcing her to finally confront the ghosts of her lineage? With a sense of inevitability, she felt she was being pulled into a confrontation much larger than herself. She edged toward the shadows, her mind racing, and as she did, she couldn't help but wonder what awaited her in this dance with her past. The air felt thick with uncertainty as Sarah stepped cautiously toward the shadows. Every instinct urged her to retreat, but curiosity and determination propelled her forward. Her heart drummed a frenetic rhythm, each beat intensifying the weight of the moment. What lurked there, just beyond her field of vision, remained a mystery, yet it teased the edges of her consciousness with the promise of reckoning. As she rounded the corner, the dim light illuminated an unexpected sight, an old, worn mirror leaning against the wall. Its surface was dusty but reflective enough to show the flicker of her anxious expression. In this moment of confrontation with herself, Sarah recognized that she was not merely a passive observer of her family's history, she was a participant, poised to reshape her own narrative. She took a deep breath, the air filling her lungs with resolve. This wasn't just about the letters anymore, it was about her courage to face whatever stood in her way. With every memory that seeped forth from the pages of those letters, illuminating hidden truths, she felt layers of herself peeling away. As she studied her reflection, Sarah considered James's warning. The truth could be heavy, but would it be heavier than the burden of ignorance? The answer gnawed at her. Ignoring the unsettled past would only allow shadows to linger. Those shadows, she realized, were tied to her identity, shaping her thoughts and aspirations in subtle ways she had never acknowledged. She turned her gaze back to the letters scattered before her, each representing a choice, a moment in time that held the power to alter her future. Yet, with the knowledge of betrayal and darkness in her lineage, she found herself at a crossroads. Would she break free from the cycles of fear and silence that had defined her ancestry? In stepping into the light of understanding, she knew there was no turning back. With renewed determination, she picked up another letter, noticing it bore an unfamiliar seal. As her fingers deftly worked to break the wax, she felt a pulse of anxiety, mixed with the thrill of discovery. The unaddressed letter hinted at complexities she had yet to navigate, either a continuation of the familiar strife or a doorway to clarity. As she peeled open the contents, the words leapt off the page, revealing an unexpected twist in her family's story, a tale of unexpected heroism amid the shadows of betrayal. It spoke of resilience in the face of adversity and the power of reclaiming one's narrative. It named another ancestor, a woman whose bold choices had altered the trajectory of generations. It became rapidly clear that Sarah's journey was not just about her bloodline but was woven into a tapestry of strength forged in turmoil. The connection stirred something deep within her, a flicker of hope and understanding that began transforming her anxiety into a more empowering feeling. Perhaps she wasn't fated to repeat the past. Perhaps she could become a catalyst for change within her own narrative. Just then, the scrape of footsteps echoed again, closer this time, jolting her from the depths of introspection. Panic surged as the shadows closed and someone or something was in the room with her. The revelation she had been piecing together felt vulnerable now, exposed and raw. "Who is there?" she called, her voice steadier than she felt. Silence answered. A sensation of being unmoored crept up her spine. Sarah's heart raced not only with apprehension but with the flicker of defiance igniting within her. The path forward was fraught with uncertainty, but she sensed that this moment could redefine her, either moving forward toward confrontation or retreating back into the familiarity of unanswered questions. She took a step toward the shadows, eyes narrowing, prepared to reclaim the space and the story that had been obscured for too long. Would this interloper force her to confront her history, or would they serve as an unexpected ally in her quest for self-discovery? Breathless with the thrill of confrontation, Sarah readied herself for whatever lay ahead, knowing full well that her understanding of truth was about to expand infinitely. As the boundaries of her past began to blend with her present, she could not shake the feeling that someone, maybe even she, was on the verge of a revelation that would change everything. And in that charged atmosphere, Sarah knew she had to find out who was in the shadows and how would they influence her journey, one towing the line between fear and liberation. The shadows stirred, and Sarah squinted against the dim light, her heart racing with the adrenaline of the unknown. As the figure emerged from the obscurity, she strained to process the flurry of thoughts clogging her mind. How would she react? Would she confront this unexpected presence with courage, or slip back into the safety of her past? The silhouette took form, revealing a man, a stranger yet somehow familiar. His features mirrored a blend of ancestry she had only glimpsed in faded photographs tucked within the letters. Sarah felt a rush of recognition, both alarming and exhilarating. "Who are you?" she managed, her voice laced with both caution and an unwavering curiosity. "Just someone drawn to the echoes of this place," he responded, his voice smooth but holding a hint of uncertainty. "You must be Sarah." A chill trickled down her spine, suspicion flaring up. She instinctively took a step back, bracing herself for an unexpected confrontation. "I've been searching for something, for answers," he continued, the earnestness in his tone softening her initial fear. "I didn't mean to intrude." And yet, the very act of him standing there brought with it a sense of purpose. What answers could he provide? Was he another piece of the puzzle her family's history had concealed? With the fragile courage blossoming within her, Sarah paused, her mind racing through the possibilities. Could he offer a revelation that would untangle the web of her ancestry? "I have to know," she stated, edging forward, her curiosity eclipsing her hesitation. "What do you know about my family?" His eyes held hers, a storm of emotions flickering within. "Not just your family, but about a legacy buried under fear and silence." Each word resonated as he spoke of chains long forged, secrets hidden but festering through generations. They echoed her own epiphany of strength and resilience, the notion that she wasn't alone in her struggle to reclaim a narrative that had attempted to control her. "What do you mean by a legacy?" she pressed, her heart pounding, the heat of determination igniting. He stepped closer, his presence undeniable. "Your ancestor, the one mentioned in the letter you read, was not an anomaly. She was part of a lineage of women who faced adversity head-on. They fought and they persevered, helping shape the very fabric of this family. By embracing their story, you can claim the courage they had, even if it feels daunting." With those words, the fragments of Sarah's journey crystallized. The mirror's image of her, so restless moments ago, straightened with renewed determination, reflecting a woman willing to step into her own power. She realized that this conversation was not merely a chance encounter, it was a doorway revealed in the narrowing path leading to her self-discovery. The man gestured toward the letters still littered around them. "They hold the keys, Sarah. Your quest is more than about uncovering the past, it's about the strength waiting to be unleashed in your present." Once again, indecision flickered within her, but Sarah sensed the urgency to press forward. She needed to learn, not just about her lineage but what this new perspective could mean for her future endeavors. But what if embracing this legacy demanded more than she was willing to give? What sacrifices would she face, and who could she trust in this uncharted territory? Pushing aside doubt, Sarah found herself unwilling to flee. "Help me understand. Help me reclaim it." His stare was unwavering. "The time has come for you to face the shadows that linger, just as your ancestors did. They stand before you now, but you must decide what path you will illuminate." Sarah's mind raced, a tempest of thoughts colliding. An invitation echoed in her heart to seize her destiny, to harness the legacy that awaited her. Would this be an opportunity to not only transform her narrative but perhaps the essence of who she truly was? As the moment hung suspended in the air, a sense of urgency prickled at her consciousness. She needed to choose the next step on this uncharted path. Here, in this building thick with stories untold, lay her chance for liberation. The shadows were still lurking, but for the first time, she could see the way forward. What decision would she make now, and how would it shape the future she longed to create? The air thickened with anticipation as Sarah drew in a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment. Her future lay poised at the edge of uncertainty, and the prospect of embracing the legacy was both thrilling and terrifying. Yet, standing before this enigmatic stranger, she felt a flicker of resolve ignite within her. "Tell me more," she urged, her voice steadier than she had anticipated. The weight of the letters lay heavy in her mind. They contained details of a past yearning to be validated, a history waiting to become part of her. Would she be able to merge that legacy into her own narrative? The man studied her, seeming to weigh his words. "Your ancestor was a beacon of resilience. She braved societal norms, stood firm against injustices, and paved the way for those that came after her. To understand her journey is to grasp the essence of your own potential." Sarah's pulse quickened. She had spent so much of her life deflecting challenges, seizing only what felt safe and familiar. But now, the specter of her ancestor loomed large, urging her to confront the discomfort she often fled. What did she face? Sarah asked, her heart hammering with a blend of fear and fascination. Prejudice, betrayal, sacrifices that fundamentally altered her existence. But she also experienced triumph moments that echoed across generations, revealing the strength embedded in your bloodline. By uncovering the details of her life, you can reclaim that strength for yourself, harness it to ignite your own journey. He leaned in closer, intensity radiating from his presence. "It won't be easy. You may encounter challenges that test your resolve. Are you ready for that?" Sarah hesitated, but deep down, the truth clashed with her reservations. How many opportunities had she let slip by for the sake of comfort? The thought stung, indeed, but even more alarming was the realization that embracing this legacy meant facing pieces of herself she'd rather ignore. Could there truly be power in those shadows? "Yes," she finally declared, the word emerging bold and fierce. "I want to understand." The man nodded, satisfaction mingling with scrutiny in his gaze. "Then we begin by exploring those letters together. Each holds a fragment of your ancestor's journey. The deeper you go, the more you'll discover not only about her but about the woman you are capable of becoming." As they sifted through the scattered pages, Sarah read about loss, hardship, and the unyielding spirit of women who grappled with identities crafted by circumstance. Each account ignited something inside her, pieces of a resilience she longed to embody. It was a revelation as much as it was a reckoning. With every treacherous step back into history, she felt the faint flicker of empowerment skimming the surface of her consciousness. Time blurred around her, the urgency to seek this knowledge spurred her forward. Still lurking in the background, doubts coiled within her, whispering warnings against the uneasiness of unraveling family ties. Would discovering her past merely put her current life at risk, or could it empower her to evolve? In the midst of another story, a small anecdote sparked. Did she ever regret her choices? Sarah found herself asking. "Regret is a luxury," he said quietly. Those who are truly alive embrace the path laid before them, both the light and the dark. The question is, will you? Sarah's heart raced again, a mixture of apprehension and clarity washing over her. There it was, the reflection of a choice that was hers and hers alone. What boundaries was she willing to shatter? How would she confront her greatest fears, realizing that she could choose the legacy to carry forward? As she glanced once more at the letters, she understood, this was not just about her ancestor anymore, it was about crafting her own identity, a synthesis of past and future. With a deep breath, she made her unyielding decision: she would not just reclaim her story but redefine it. And yet, just as the promise of transformation surged within her, an unexpected voice broke through the silence in the corridor. Beyond. An unfamiliar tone shared her name, full of authority and purpose. Sarah. It's time we talk. You're not who I thought you were. Her heart stuttered, anticipation coiling tighter. What had she stirred up now, and would it reveal itself as the betrayal or the breakthrough she feared most? The corridor felt confining as Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The voice echoed with an authority that felt almost accusatory, dredging up a tidal wave of apprehension. For a moment, she was paralyzed, caught between exploring her ancestral legacy and confronting the very real presence of someone who seemed poised to shatter that burgeoning sense of self. Who is it? She probed, almost inaudibly, her eyes darting to the stranger across from her. He merely nodded toward the door, the stoic expression on his face leaving her more unsettled. With a swift motion, Sarah closed the distance to the door and pulled it open. A woman stood framed in the light, her figure sharp against the dim interior. Her posture radiated confidence, yet the implications of her expression churned with something else: disappointment, perhaps, or betrayal. Sarah, she repeated, this time softer, but no less loaded. I trusted you to follow the plan. Excuse me. Sarah felt her defenses rise, fueled by a mixture of confusion and indignation. The woman stepped forward, a sense of urgency in her movement. You're not just a researcher. You're part of something much larger, much more significant than I initially realized. And that legacy, she gestured toward the letters scattered around the room, it's not just about your ancestor anymore. It's about the deals made, the connections forged. You're in danger of losing your chance to assist the greater good. Each word felt like a strike against the fragile sense of identity Sarah had just begun to construct. Was her mission merely transactional? Was she merely a vessel to fulfill someone else's agenda? Sarah swallowed hard, every instinct within her screaming to reclaim the narrative she had just begun to define. I don't even know who you are, she said, striving to maintain an unwavering calm. What do you want from me? I'm Hannah, she stated, as if that should clear everything up. I thought you could be a bridge. Your ancestors' sacrifices tie into a much larger fabric. We are looking for preservation, and we need someone with your insight. A bridge. The metaphor struck deep. It suggested sacrifice, a concept that mirrored what Sarah had just unpacked from the letters. But now she was left grappling with the uncertainty of what that sacrifice would entail. Was she to align herself with whatever unseen power Hannah represented? The notion of it sparked a plethora of questions, doubts flooding in like a harried stream. I'm still figuring out who I am and what I want, Sarah replied firmly. You want me to play a role, but I'm not ready to do that. Not without understanding the full scope of what's at stake. Hannah regarded her with an inscrutable expression, lips pursed together in contemplation. Minutes stretched into an infinite silence, tension coiling between them like a tightly wound spring. See, that's where you're wrong, Hannah said eventually. The stakes are already high. Your reluctance to act could be the very thing that leads to disaster, not only for you but for those depending on you, including your ancestor's legacy. The truth isn't just written in those letters, it's drawn together in blood. Your hesitation may cost us time we can't afford to waste. Sarah felt a premonition grip her, each heartbeat reverberating with the weight of Hannah's words. Her pulse quickened, a profound crossroads lay before her. Are you prepared to confront the pressure this legacy will bring? Or are you simply going to be a bystander in your own life? Hannah continued, voice firm yet laced with urgency. What would happen if she chose to engage? The thought stirred a tempest in her soul. The decision she faced wasn't merely about following Hannah's lead or wielding her ancestor's legacy, it was about reclaiming the narrative that had always been hers. As new layers of possibility unfurled, Sarah wrestled with the exhilarating reality that power was within her grasp. But the unrelenting pressure of Hannah's gaze clouded her thoughts. Would following this woman mean emerging from shadows or stepping into them? I need time to think, she said, her resolve firm. But just as she turned back to collect her thoughts, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in a nearby mirror, an image framed by uncertainty yet somehow brimming with latent strength. Fine, Hannah conceded, an edge of impatience woven through her tone. But remember, every moment you hesitate lets opportunities slip away. You'll need to decide, and decide soon. With that, Hannah stepped out into the corridor, leaving Sarah tangled in a web of self-discovery and resurgent doubt. What did it truly mean to choose a legacy? And was she prepared for the depths of challenges that beckoned her forward, or would fear chain her to the familiar once more? An eerie silence filled the space once more, but within Sarah, a fire began to smolder, one that demanded to be ignited. As new possibilities compounded upon themselves, she realized the next moment of truth was on the horizon, ready to shape everything she thought she knew about herself. And just as she turned back to the letters, the weight of her decision pressing down like a heavy cloak, she couldn't shake the feeling that the true test was yet to come, and it would arrive much sooner than she could prepare for. The whispers of uncertainty coiled around Sarah like an unseen haze, thickening as the door swung shut behind Hannah. The abrupt solitude pressed against her, and yet amidst it, she felt an unsettling clarity beginning to form. The letters sprawled across the table beckoned her once more, each page a tantalizing thread connecting her to her past and the weight of her choices. Beneath the surface of confusion lay a pulse of determination that started to beat with intention. This was her moment to unravel the legacy submerged in ink and emotion, a chance to dissect the very essence of her ancestors' sacrifices. They were not merely lines of cursive written against the backdrop of a bygone era, they were declarations woven through time, seeking acknowledgement. As she thumbed through them, her mind raced, churning with innumerable thoughts. Hannah's voice echoed, laced with urgency, demanding action. Was she prepared to step into the role of a bridge, or would she forever remain an observer in her own existence? The thought of cowardice pricked at her psyche. She had to plan, there was no room for hesitation. Sarah leaned closer to the letters, immersing herself in their stories, allowing each one to wash over her like a tide of personal revelation. The struggles they chronicled resonated deeply within her. The delicate circumstances that had shaped her family's history seemed primal, laden with resilience and perhaps even darkness. With newfound purpose igniting her spirit, she flipped to a page that depicted an event that had shifted the course of their lives, a betrayal that altered her ancestor's trajectory and ultimately forged a different lineage. A betrayal that still echoed within her family tree. As she traced her fingers over the ink, it felt as if the past was reaching for her, unlocking pathways of courage long sheltered away, yet even as her resolve intensified, the specter of fear lingered. What if Hannah's ambitions were self-serving? What if aligning herself with that vision meant surrendering her autonomy? Even the thrum of urgency felt suffocating at times. She needed to carve out her path, one that kept her commitment to her own truths intact. The notion of confiding in someone surged to the forefront of her mind. She didn't have to face this labyrinth alone. There were contacts she had nurtured in her academic circles, individuals both wise and innovative. Rising from her chair, Sarah paced the room, allowing the walls and their stale air to collapse around her. What if she sought counsel from her mentor? He had always encouraged her instinct for inquiry. She could share what she'd learned thus far, her findings in the letters, and the unsettling tension with Hannah. Perhaps he would illuminate the path ahead, lending perspective where her own perceptions felt clouded. With the faintest flicker of hope igniting within her, she set her phone on the table. Before she could backtrack, she hit dial on his contact. The connection rang, each sound counting down the seconds until either clarity or confusion unveiled itself. When his familiar voice finally greeted her, a flood of words spilled forth her uncertainty, her need for guidance, her instinctual reluctance to follow someone else's lead. She held nothing back, her voice gaining strength as she articulated the reality of her predicament. "Sarah," he interrupted gently but firmly, "sometimes you need to embrace the risk of stepping forward, even when the path is unclear. You have inherited this legacy for a reason. Don't forget, the courage to choose can redefine you in ways you've yet to imagine." His words wove through her consciousness, pulling her focus away from the shadows of doubt. Courage became a tangible thing she could hold on to, an anchor among swirling uncertainties. But just as the sense of clarity sharpened, the weight of Hannah's ultimatum hung over her. Time was an adversary she could not ignore. The foundations of her ancestry beckoned. What legacy would she choose? The decision lingered precariously between her past and the unfathomable future. Ahead. A rush of adrenaline surged within her. Was she ready to reach into the unknown, infusing her lineage with her unique vision? With renewed conviction, she knew she had to act, but the stakes had never felt higher. The countdown had begun, and before long the true nature of her mission would demand that she confront not only Hannah's vision but her own burgeoning identity. What revelations awaited her as she ventured deeper into this labyrinth of legacy? And when the decisive moment arrived, would she seize it with the courage she was beginning to cultivate, or would she falter at the precipice of her destiny? As dawn broke, casting a soft light over the remnants of the bunker, Sarah felt an exhilarating shift coursing through her. The uncertainty that had suffocated her for so long began to dissipate, replaced by an unwavering feeling of purpose. She stood surrounded by the scattered letters, each a reminder of the strength embedded in her lineage, the resilience of the women who had faced adversities, learned from their sacrifices, and forged paths for generations to come. With newfound clarity, Sarah took a moment to reflect on the journey that had led her here. The yearning to escape a life defined by limitations had opened door after door, each revealing not only her past but the courage to redefine her future. Those letters were no longer just relics of family history. They had become a guide, illuminating the legacy she was destined to embrace. She remembered Hannah's urgent words, the idea that she could be a bridge, a means to preserve the family narrative. But Sarah realized that she had no intention of becoming a mere player in someone else's script. Instead, she would write her own chapter, one that incorporated the strength of her ancestors while remaining true to her voice. Empowered by this revelation, she scribbled notes across the pages of a journal, synthesizing the lessons surged from the letters. Each entry outlined not only what she had discovered but also how she intended to channel her lineage into actionable plans for herself and Lily. It was time to act. Sarah reached for her phone, ready to arrange meetings with those who could help her amplify her newfound understanding and commitment to her legacy. With focused determination, she dialed an elder member of her local historical society, a woman who had always been supportive of her research endeavors. "Hello, Mrs. Thompson. It's Sarah. I'm reaching out because I've uncovered remarkable pieces of my family's history, unexpected connections and resilience that I believe could stir a larger narrative. I need your help to bring this to light." As their conversation unfolded, Sarah felt a satisfaction she had never known. She was no longer passive within her own life. She was seizing control, weaving together her family's rich tapestry of stories with an authenticity that belonged solely to her. Mrs. Thompson's enthusiastic agreement to assist reignited Sarah's fervor. Days blurred into weeks as preparations began in earnest. Sarah worked closely with her mentor, James, alongside Mrs. Thompson, fueled by a mix of urgency and excitement. They mapped out comprehensive plans that highlighted her family's stories, integrating them into workshops aimed at enlightening others about the importance and impact of heritage. Each session would not only educate but empower individuals to confront their ties, reclaiming narratives that may have felt forgotten. Meanwhile, her relationship with Lily grew stronger. Sarah instilled in her daughter the value of embracing one's history, teaching her that every story, good or bad, was a stepping stone to growth. For the first time, Sarah felt the weight of her sacrifices lighten, supplanted by pride in the path she was forging. Watching Lily's eyes sparkle with curiosity and excitement filled her with something she had thought lost, hope. Finally, the day came for their first public workshop. Greetings flowed, and laughter echoed around the room as they welcomed attendees eager to engage with their own histories. Sarah stood at the front, confidence radiating from her as she prepared to tell her family's story, a narrative that transcended betrayal and encompassed resilience, showcasing how they all could be architects of their own destinies. As she spoke, weaving her personal experiences amidst her ancestors' journeys, she saw faces reflected in the audience, some filled with tears, others with determination. The raw power of storytelling ignited a spark in them, and she reveled in the understanding that her work was fostering change, encouraging others to challenge their own constraints. When the session concluded, applause erupted around her, affirming the impact her words had on the audience. Sarah stood there, humbled yet unyielding, basking in the acknowledgement of a job well done. For the first time, she felt not just competent but validated. She had conquered her fears, transforming familial shadows into light that would guide future generations. In those moments, standing in front of a crowd changed forever by her work, she realized this was not merely a step forward, it was the culmination of everything she had fought for. Sarah emerged from the workshop with a solid confidence enriched by recognition, her heart swelling with pride. No longer just the waitress battling to survive, she had stepped into a role of influence, intertwining her personal growth with her family narrative. This was her legacy: to uplift, to educate, and to inspire others to embrace their history. As she drove home with Lily, she closed her eyes for a moment, letting the fulfillment wash over her. "Mom, you were amazing today," Lily exclaimed, pulling her from her reverie. "Thank you, sweetie," Sarah whispered, gratitude filling her heart. "It's all for us." The journey had transformed her, and the future felt illuminated as they drove beneath a canopy of stars. She had not only unearthed her past, she had solidified her place within the world, a force of change, a beacon of resilience, and a model of courage for her daughter. As they arrived home, she knew this would not be the end, but a powerful beginning, a chapter filled with unknowns, yet armed with the strength of her findings. Sarah had truly arrived, realizing her legacy was not something she had to find, it was something she was chosen to create. The dawn of her new reality awaited. Now, it's your time to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that can inspire your journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support Voices of Transformation. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Sarah's incredible journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and realize the power of embracing their own legacies. You need to support these stories. Don't wait even one more second.